Well, folks, I would like to welcome you back to yet another community watch party for a Pantheon developer live stream. Although it's actually not live because we are back to our original schedule where we are doing this the day after the stream. We're going to be reviewing last night's development update. Welcome back. Last month we took a little bit of a detour so that we could tune in live because there was a lot of big news in July for Pantheon. We heard about the big investment. That was the big one, and that Carnage is one of the investors, and that he's going to be streaming a pre-alpha session next month. And there was the Steve Clover announcement also. I think that was in July. Lots of big announcements last month. So we're going to see what we got going on this month here in August. See if they can I don't know how they're going to follow up July, but we will see. I have not yet seen this video. If you already have, that's great. I'm glad you're tuning in with me again here. What can I say? It's Friday, it's early afternoon where I am, and I have got plenty of time to dive into this and just dissect it for all it's worth, all right? It looks like it's a 43-minute video, and so we're just going to work through it, and the thing that I like about doing these day after is that we can kind of pause whenever we want, and we can just chat about things as they come up, and we're just going to kind of slowly work our way through the video here. We are going to be playing Pantheon Bingo. Go ahead and hit exclamation bingo to pick up your Pantheon Bingo card. These are updated every month. There's some new possible combinations in there. And I will tell you what, playing Bingo live during a dev Twitch stream is hard. It is so hard to keep up with. Everything's happening so fast. You're trying to like watch and listen and comprehend what's being said, but then also like checking your bingo card, and you can't, and it's once it starts happening, there's no stopping and going back. But that's why we're gonna be taking our time today. We're just gonna kind of we're sliding into the weekend, and we're just gonna chill, and we're gonna talk about whatever comes up. The only thing that I know about this video, other than the fact that it's 43 minutes long, is that it goes over some class updates, which who doesn't love that? That literally affects all of us. Everybody's gonna have a class, and everybody loves hearing about their class and what's changed with it. So we got class and also world building, which is really the biggest thing from the development side that at least I'm keeping a close eye on, because I think it is the most important aspect at this point in development. It is one of the biggest things that is holding them back, I think, from being further along than where they are, is just the sheer amount of world that needs to be built and all the art assets that goes along with that. It's a very time-consuming process, especially for a game like Pantheon that is aiming really high as far as the depth and the breadth of the world that they're trying to create. It's Terminus is it really will only work if it is a absolutely huge world that sucks you in and is densely packed with things to explore and discover. That's really what makes Pantheon what it is. It's absolutely fundamental. But doing that, if you're going to create, just think about the idea for a moment. Try to comprehend what it would be like to basically create Earth by yourself, and everything that is everything that goes into that, it's just it's kind of mind-blowing. And so that's definitely something to keep an eye on if you're following Pantheon's development, is the art side of things. So always very interested to hear some updates on that. And I'm also always happy to see everybody who joins me here today in these coming along for the journey, tuning in, digesting this information, and reacting along with me. It's always a pleasure to have you along for the ride. We got Thorn Deep, James Orr, Man of Rohan, Scubs. We got Minus, X Helios for the first time. Welcome, and Dossie, always a staple. Glad to see you. Familiar face, Spoon Face. Not a familiar face, but glad to have you. Colmore, Dark Ice. Lots of people coming along for the afternoon. We got the afternoon crowd here today. Anybody from across the pond in the EU? I know this time of day is generally better for you folks, because VR normally does their streams like later at night in US time, and so, and I am on the eastern side of the US, but you know, on Fridays this time works awesome for me. I love it. It's nice and chill. We're just gonna hang out. Yeah, there's my UK folks. All right. Well, let's not delay any longer. I don't see any reason why we should. I'm going to headphone up here. Let's switch over. Remember, get your bingo card, exclamation point bingo, before we get started here. You're going to need that. And taking a look at my card here this month, let's see. Let me see. Well, go ahead and hit. We're going to cross off the free space, of course. This is not a bad card. And again, some of you, if you watched the stream already, you might already know how well I'm going to do. Don't spoil it for me. Depending on how well you remember yesterday's stream, you might already have an advantage. But I'm not above pausing the video, and we might go back. I will go back, just warning you. If I missed a word, I will rewind the tape and to make sure that I get it. I'm always the technical difficulties on there. I'm always a little bit worried about that, because that actually doesn't happen very often. Although if somebody's maybe muted when they're not supposed to be or something, then that will count. Other than that, they haven't done patch notes in a while, so that's a little iffy. Other than that, not too bad. All right, let's jump in.
Pantheon Rise of the Fallen development stream. I am your host, David Roenick Schlau. With me, as always, is my co-host and my partner in crime, Mr. Tony Guidi, aka Minus.
Hey, everybody.
What's up,
Minus? Not much, man. Excited. Good stuff to talk about tonight.
Oh, excited. There we go. Right off the bat.
let's you tell everybody. You're better at that than me.
Well, I got to say, before we get into this month's stream, I got a little bit of a bone to pick with you. Yeah. I'm out over here testing some epic monk gear. And you guys, you're over here with Joppa making these amazing streams. That last stream was fantastic, and then the one with Code Carnage after that was
what
great.
Happened?
I got to catch up on some YouTube action, so that was fun. And if anybody else missed it, you also can hit our YouTube channel and check out the past streams.
You might be the first person who's ever taken a real life injury, turned it into a game testing moment, and turned it into a plug to go look at old content. I think you just broke the fifth wall with that one. That's good.
Thank you.
Thorndeep says, can we use that for Fracture?
So let's get to tonight's stream. I'm really excited
what happened?
about this one. I like to call it it's a little bit of a pre-alpha primer. We're going to start out with some burning questions from the VIP community. Then we're going to have an update on some of the playable classes that are going to be available during pre-alpha. And then finally, we're going to look at some footage from pre-alpha back in the day to pre-alpha now, and we'll see how the changes have been implemented in-game. So
cool.
Exciting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about, so let's get to it. People are saying you're a little low. You got to speak up a little more. Get closer to the mic. Now everyone's going to be, now you asked for it now with David. Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our first segment. I think people love and remember this one.
10 burning questions.
Okay, so our first question, obviously, is when is the next pre-alpha testing?
Oh, I thought he was going to say alpha.
This is usually the part where we go to 9 burning questions, right? But I that's not cool. We shouldn't do that,
yeah,
right?
That's true. That's how about this? Let's give the best answer we can, but let's make it a freebie question because we do have 10 great questions. Let's go ahead. I'm going to pass it over to you, and we can tell them what we know about date.
So I like it, passing the buck. Okay, Ben, this is where you can turn off the stream now. As Mina said, we don't want to avoid the question, but to be truthful, we don't have an exact date yet that we're willing to share. We're obviously working hard on the server, and the testers are testing the new systems and network like crazy. What we can say is this: we are confident that we are going to announce a date soon, and that date will be in September. I know this isn't news, but I think it's important we update you all that we are confident in hitting the commitment we have made prior. So yeah, throw a dart on any of the 3 weeks and you'll be pretty close.
There's really not, that's almost telling the date at that point. Yeah, the testing is going well. It's just a lot to test. This is a brand new server. This is a brand new network. So there's just a lot that's being worked on. Our internal testers are doing a great job.
I don't have great. Network.
We committed to September. We are confident it's going to be in September. I just want to make sure everyone knows that. So it's not a great answer. It doesn't have a set date that everybody wants to hear. So again, freebie question. So let's get into the 10 burning questions here. And we took these questions from our VIP community, anyone who's actually in the testing, and we asked them just questions they wanted to know about testing. So question 1 that we picked up here was, what changes can you expect to see in Thronefast when you're starting in Thronefast? So I'll cover this one, David. So from testing in 2021, the upcoming testing session, there's going to be like a multitude of things that have changed in Thronefast. So to begin with, some of the classes are going to have revamped starting areas or different starting areas you'll probably have to get accustomed to. The overall environment of the world has been vastly updated, and we've sort of shown that in some of the recent development streams, meaning there's a lot more to explore, climb, and conquer when it comes to the environment, including just getting that feel of day and night cycles and how important that is. And I got to tell you, with day and night cycles, when you're in that night cycle, keep your torch. If you don't have a torch, I'm just telling you now, don't throw it away. The other thing too is enemies have been reworked quite a bit. The design team's done a great job with enemy placement, where enemies are, the power level of enemies, abilities of enemies. So there's going to be a lot to explore in Thronefast in particular, just to kind of test different levels of your power increases as you're leveling. So for those who have tested in 2021, there will be familiarity for sure, but it's really going to be a much different starting area in Thronefast altogether. So I think that hits that question well. David, what do you got?
What about weather there?
Yeah, you might have a couple storms rolling in, some fog. Yeah, for sure. Weather is going to have a play as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a huge sort of game breaker for some people when they come in and just see the world, what it looks like, with the new weather system and the day-night cycles. It feels like a whole new game. Okay, here's our second question. What can we expect from crafting and harvesting in the upcoming test? Obviously a hot topic for a lot of people. We are still in the process of implementing parts of the crafting UI and the underlying systems which support both crafting and gathering. That said, in this test, you will be able to mine ore nodes out of the world and uncover their riches. You'll also be able to smelt the ore you mine into metals so that you can start getting a feel for how refinement works and the overall crafting process. There's a lot more that we hope to enable soon and have everyone test. But in the meantime, we hope everyone will enjoy exploring Throne Fast and discovering some of the raw materials that will be useful to you as a crafter. So yes, mostly.
I wish I had Explore.
So next question is around weapon techniques. And they say, will the weapon techniques, which have been introduced in the newsletter and the Monk gameplay stream, be a part of the testing session? How early can we see these come into play? And how does a player learn the techniques? Do they need to go to a trainer? How does that work? So to begin with, weapon techniques will indeed be available in the upcoming pre-alpha session. You're going to experience not probably every technique that's going to be available. That we're still implementing some things and making adjustments, but it's worth noting that the melee combatants, so anyone playing a melee class,
I'm going to go with combat.
To get a bit more meat on the bone compared to their caster counterparts, but they're going to be there as well. So techniques are actually going to start at level 1. Upon stepping into the world with your newly crafted character, depending on what weapon you decide to have, you're going to have weapon techniques. So most of these techniques through the journey are actually automatically learned right now. So when you hit the skill level of a staff or a dagger or a sword, it's going to give you that ability into your spellbook. But that being said, there are some specialized techniques that might have to be purchased from class trainers as well. So weapon techniques are a massively huge part of the combat improvements that we've been discussing in various content we've put out. And we're excited. We're really excited to have the feedback come back from testers, because it's going to be something pretty big that I think everybody wants to experience. So,
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's a huge sort of change in the game. Here's our next question. What structure is in place right now to communicate and organize patch notes / updates during sessions?
Oh, that's so funny.
Prior to the start of
I don't know if they're going to do like the patch notes at the end of the stream. They haven't done that, if my memory of the library is correct. Last time they actually updated us on patch notes was February of this year, which was like 6 months ago. So Minus, if you're still watching, I'm going to put that bug in your ear. You might want to see if you can pick that back up, because it was always nice hearing even just a sample of some of the patch notes of things that have been done lately. I don't know if they're going to do that at the end of this stream. Maybe I'm judging too soon, but he still said patch notes. He said the word patch notes in a different context, but I'm going to take it on the bingo card. We're doing pretty good. Let's see. I'm like 8 minutes in and we've hit 6. Like that's not bad. I'm still not really close to any bingos, but let's keep rolling.
Pre-alpha session, the design team, typically Joppa, will engage the pre-alpha testing forums with overall notes about the current builds the testers will experience. This can be as in-depth as detailing work done to quests and various systems, but also provide some updates on each class and what to expect.
iGouge makes a fair point that says, I think of the road to alpha in the newsletter as the patch notes. I can see that. I can see that for sure. But I think it certainly does not hurt to include them in the live stream as well, because maybe not everybody reads the newsletter. You can always, like, in just generic patch notes, you can cover things that aren't normally covered in the under the specific like alpha categories. I don't think necessarily like patch notes in streams aren't. I don't think it would be obsolete to do them in the stream, even with as good as the road to alpha in the newsletter is. It still feels like it was something that they were doing like fairly regularly, like pretty much every month for a while. They would include patch notes at the end of a stream, and then they just kind of stopped without giving any reason why. And I know it's not like you can't perfectly judge how well the progress is going on the game just based on the patch notes that they choose to give us, but it was still just like kind of a nice thing to have, you know, and if it's maybe just too much overhead to do, that's fine, as long as you know, they set that expectation and just at least offer some sort of explanation as to why they're not going to continue to do that. And if it's because like, hey, you know, it's, you know, just see the newsletter, then like that's fine, but one way or the other.
We'll talk to changes to abilities, perhaps abilities that have been newly added, or known bugs that testers may experience and may not need to report. It gives everyone a nice head start, you know, on what to expect with their favorite classes and their new features they can search out in the world. When in the game world, you'll have access to a bug reporting tool that is pretty self-explanatory to report when you see. Also, we'll have special channels in our official Discord to talk openly about the experiences our testers are in the world, as well as reach out for support or questions. After the session, our amazing testers will also type up recap posts on the pre-alpha forums detailing their experience, feedback, or bugs they may have found. We can't stress enough how valuable it is to have those posts, their feedback on the forums, or take part in the conversations that start there. These can really provide, you know, some of the best feedback for us. So we encourage testers to take an active role on the PA forums leading up to the test, during the test, and of course after the test as well.
Yeah, and you know, the testing team and the programming team and the design team, they were really adamant about how important like the VIP testers have access to that. It's a special forum that's just for testing. And that forum is a massive place of communication. I just want to like reiterate how important that is. So next question. So what are the main items in this upcoming test that VR is looking for feedback and testing on? So when we do open up to our testers, we often sort of, as David was saying, we give like a guide that kind of says what we're looking for feedback on. Now, I'll give everyone a heads up. In this test, we're looking for feedback across a variety of topics. These include combat updates, pacing, downtime, difficulty. Because remember, like the experience rates, for example, those are going to change a lot in testing. They may be faster than they are outside, but like, what does it feel like to you? The density of content, itemization, and of course, you know, with vinyl being a huge part of driving this new test, bugs around stability, performance, that kind of stuff. And while we'll have like these specific things we really want feedback on, as David was saying, like the before and after stuff that you discuss and the posts that you put out, you can still wrap your...
Wait, Madaki, you got bingo? Oh, you're just laughing at bingo. That's kind of what I thought. I was like, I didn't hear him say anything that was on a bingo card. That was fine. I was like, wait, what? I don't think I missed anything, but what? How could you possibly have gotten bingo already? Anyway, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Your experience up. We want to hear like what the full experience for you is. So even though we have these specific things, we still want more feedback. But specifically when you're in there testing, please look at these items for us because it's really what we want to dig in on.
Yep. Okay, next question. What is some of the feedback you have received from testers that push development in a direction you weren't necessarily expecting? Great question. In our May developer roundtable, we discussed changes to balance to enable more solo ability, while being sure that we are still promoting, of course, you know, and rewarding group content, which is the main focus of our game. This was largely influenced by tester experiences and sometimes their frustrations. You know, while the
to the point that Pantheon bingo is too easy, that's pretty much by design, you know, because it's more fun if you get bingo. And even if you get multiple bingos, there's nothing wrong. It's very loose. There's nothing wrong with getting multiple bingos. Although I see Dossie saying that nobody got bingo in last night's stream, and I'm feeling confident that we're going to get some bingos here today. Again, because we have the advantage of being able to pause and go back. When you're watching live, it's so much harder to juggle everything at once. And if you miss it, it's just gone. I don't know how many people were playing bingo during the stream last night, but I think we'll get at least one here today. I know with the topic of this stream being a little bit more narrow, like they might not, talk about fractures or climates or something like that. And the Joppa, I don't think is on this stream, so we might not get like an onward and upward, or they might not talk about like their vision or anything like that. I'm just guessing. But we'll see. But some streams, like I think last month's stream, we almost filled up the card. I think I actually got everything except one square during the Co-Carnage stream. But that's just part of the fun. Just see, I think the competition is really like, there's who can get bingo first, but then there's also the secondary competition of who can get the most bingos in the most direction. Like, I think I talked about before how the inspiration for this game came from a Super Bowl bingo game that my family plays whenever we have a Super Bowl party. Based on, there's two different forms of it. There's like, a bingo card with different like plays, like football plays and events that you might see during the game. But then there's also like the advertisement bingo with like logos and commercials and stuff like that. And it's always about who can get the most bingos. That's the real competition, and it's just spread from there. My wife and I will dog sit for some friends fairly regularly, and those friends have started, every time we've done that, they've created like a dog bingo to kind of it turns into this like super overdone competition between me and my wife to see who can fill up the bingo card the most. And it's like things like, scooping dog poop and, dogs, seeing somebody else walk their dog in the neighborhood and whatever. It's like bingo is always a good time. Anyway, that's not what this is about though. Let's get back to the stream.
The game had potential to be incredibly fun in groups. It was difficult during those tests to make any meaningful progress if they were unable to find a group. We wanted to give players more opportunities to stay engaged in the game in these situations while simultaneously ensuring the group experience was still sought after as a premier method of play. Also somewhat related to this, we were receiving a lot of feedback on the emphasis on itemization as the primary source of.
Jantweiler says it makes them aware of the repetitive things that they have said. See, that is an unexpected positive side effect. A little self-awareness does everybody good. They're if they know that people are listening for things like that, they might try to switch it up a little bit, which I think is a good thing. Madaki says, isn't a Dead Ronic joke essentially a free square? You would think so, except I have noticed, it's my impression that since we've started playing bingo, though, they've made, and they know that the Dead Ronic joke is a bingo square, I feel like they've been making less Dead Ronic jokes. Am I right about that? Because I think that it's part of that like self-awareness. They're like, that's like kind of, it's fun to have those like tropes that come up. But I don't know. I don't know if they're trying to like sabotage our bingo game and make it harder for us. I don't know. Is it a conspiracy? We may never know.
Of character power and how this meant that certain classes became reliant on drops. This could be felt in groups and overall impact, and effectiveness. Part of our updates to combat include not only a revamp to how stats and attributes influence outcomes, but also providing players with attribute increases as they level. This ensures that power is not just coming from itemization, but also from character growth. I think that was a major sort of change in progress, in my opinion, because, those early levels in particular, if you're stuck not finding a group, you're going to leave. And so, you want to be able to like get your feet wet. And so I think that was a huge improvement that testers helped us sort of.
iGouge says, I still say, should be the free square VR hard anti-bingo stance. That is hard mode right there. You could put any of those like filler phrases or filler words. Those could be their own squares, And talk about self-awareness. That will really that'll really whip them into shape real quick if they know people are listening for that. Because actually, I don't know how many of you have ever taken any sort of like speech class in college or high school or whatever the case may be, but like whenever you take one of those classes, which I have, and I know that I am guilty of too many filler words, and maybe I'll probably regret this, but maybe you guys should call me out if I do that too much, because I know that it's not ideal, and it's very easy to do though if you're not thinking consciously about what you're saying, which I'm doing right now, and I'm slowing down my speech, which might be a good thing. See, I just did it. But that's the point. When you're giving a speech in a class, one of the techniques or the practices, I did it again. One of the, I guess a technique that they practice is having the audience that's listening to the speech have maybe like crumpled up pieces of paper. Sometimes they'll use like paper clips or whatever, and it has double effectiveness because it keeps the audience engaged in what they're listening to. They're paying attention to the speech and comprehending the words that are being said, and it also improves the speaker, because what they're told to do is that whenever the speaker says something like or like or which I just did, the audience is supposed to throw a crumpled up piece of paper at them, or throw a paper clip at them, or on the floor or something. And then at the end of the speech, you count up how many paper clips are on the floor, and it could be like 30, 40, which this is so weird trying to give a lecture about not using filler words and using filler words, but you get the point. It's so hard not to do, but when you get to the end of the speech and you see how many times you use those filler words, it really puts things into perspective. You're like, wow, you don't even realize how often you say it, but it really is best to try to cut down on those things. And the only way to do it is to have somebody make you aware of it. Now, am I actually going to put those in bingo? Probably not, but you brought it up. I think it's a fair point.
Along the line, follow the god.
And also to add to that, David, if you think back to like the monk video we showed, like the early monk video when you and Adam and I were talking about what that open experience looks like. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. But that video, I really went on, and I think some people are like, well, maybe Minus is just saying this because he works with VR. But I went on and on about the feel, right? Like how different it felt to level and to go fight something your level and like struggle and have to sit and have downtime, then like level up and start getting your weapon skills up and then go back and fight those things. I'm like, okay, I definitely feel a little stronger. And every level you start to feel that a little bit. I'm really excited that, everyone's going to see that and feel that a lot. And that is a big part of like what he talked about from the itemization part as well. So that's awesome. Okay, this one I'm excited about. So this question was, can we get an update on character models and what this means for future race implementation? So with the recent art hirings, we're in the process of bringing all our character models up to like a modern standard. So the models thus far have been seen in pre-alpha, had some limitations and honestly some errors in their rigging, in their topology, like just weird stuff that like an arm bone didn't turn right. There were a lot of things that our new animators and our new team have really dug in on. So with where they were, and when it came to like designing armor, weapons, animations, we wanted to make that process very efficient. So we knew we'd have to work on updating like those core rigs and figure out like how we wanted to do that. So with that said, we've actually established a new character like pipeline that will result in both aesthetic improvements as well as efficiency gains in bringing the remaining races online. So as of this stream, and we haven't shown this yet, and I don't know if you'll see it in PA or not, but maybe. I don't want to make any promises. But as of this stream, we've completed a redo of our human male model. And we're expecting that the human female model is going to be completed this month. So both of those races with the new rigs and the new builds, they're going to act as sort of an easier baseline to move forward and to kind of correct and improve all of the races. But once we do that basic part, like we're not going to go and redo all the races we have in just yet from an aesthetics part, we are actually going to be prioritizing getting our unrepresented races in. So the Scar, the Dark Meal, the Archai, getting them into the pipeline, and then we will cycle back to the others when that's done. It's just important to note this is a massive step for us in improving our animations, the look and feel of our characters that you are going to eventually fall in love with and build that story with. So really excited about this. So David, I know you're pretty pumped about that one.
I want to hear you pronounce Dark Mirror again, actually.
You just did for me. Thank you. Dark Mirror. Yeah. Oh, you meant to say Dark Mirror, didn't you? That's funny. I got you.
I did not. Okay. Are there any rare... this next question. Are there any rare named enemies featured in this playtest for players to discover? Obviously fun part of MMOs. So with these types of things, we don't want to give too much away or it will lose a bit of its luster, but we have added a number of new rare spawns to the world. All these additions will have their own itemization, as we talked about recently on the Co-Carnage stream. We are excited for some of the optimizations that we think will retain its value and use for a considerable amount of time. Like, that's kind of big. Some of these spawns are, of course, more rare than others, so we're going to be eagerly watching to see if testers can manage to find them all. And yes, that is a challenge.
Yeah, that's fun. That's exciting.
let's see who's going to be the first to discover all the rare spawns.
We'll see if they do. There's been a lot in our previous tests, David, and you know this for a fact that people have just walked right by.
Even before the pre-alpha testing, there were things being thrown in game, and the team would find things that we didn't, and be like, "What is this loot doing here?" And then they'd be like, "Oh, you found it. You're the first one to find." So there was some of that going on even internally before it happens externally.
It's the fun of an MMO, right? That's it. That's what it's all about. Sure. So the next question is, and we're going to expand a little bit on this question, but are banks or vaults ready for testing in the new testing session? So overall, there's a large amount of new systems that are going to be in this next test. So yes, banking will be one of them. But also, just to rattle off a few here, the new systems, the near death and death penalty is going to be in the testing. Obviously, you excited for that one, David?
Near death, yes.
I mean, this could change your whole story. If you can get out of near death and become near death, Ronik, that's not as bad. You'd just be a near death crawling around a lot. But
that if you have a Ronik death joke,
have to res me.
So the near death penalties, a lot of new skills, including those weapon skills we talked about, crafting, harvesting, as we talked a little bit about, sprinting. I'm actually excited for everyone to get their hands on sprinting. Since I've been testing sprinting, it's weird. My mind instantly goes to sprint. It's strange. You get programmed quick on that. I'm excited to hear what you think of that. And we've already talked about day and night cycles. And again, David, I'm saying it again. I'm saying it twice in this stream. Make sure you keep your torch. That's all I'm saying. That's it for that question.
Why you keep skipping weather? You have
we already talked about it. I said it. Yeah, we got weather.
I'm so impressed by the weather that I think I've said it on multiple streams. I really feel like it's such a, again, here you go. Here's your bingo card. Immersion. I really,
thanks,
I really
Ronik.
feel like both the day-night cycle and the weather, that immersion factor really comes to the forefront, and it makes it feel like a world, like a living world.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's.
If we get a piece of concept art and then an impromptu Q&A with chat at the end of the stream, that might be all it takes. I mean, I don't know though. I don't know. We started off strong and we're slowing down. But see, they got it broken up by chapters. This might be cheating, but most of this stream is this 10 burnings questions segment. And then there's class. There's also supposed to be world building, which I don't think they have specifically labeled. I don't know. We'll see.
This is the last one. I think this is the last one, and we're both there. This one's fun. Definitely fun.
Do any members of the VR team plan on joining in on any PA sessions? And if so, would they play as the name we know by or go incognito? So, I think in the past, it's been dev preference, I guess. Some people have, I know Joppa's kind of rolled around as Joppa and flaunted himself around the world.
In his fancy armor.
Yeah, in his fancy armor. Like, oh, here's something you won't see for a long time. But I will have it now. In fact, it's gold for me. And for myself, at least for the last PA session, I actually went incognito for the first couple of days, and I would join a group just because I wanted to get, what it felt like to be in a group. And really, I think that's where the team gets the most value because, you're seeing the emergent gameplay, you're seeing the groups act how they would normally act, without somebody watching them. And I think that's a valuable experience. I think the last day I eventually told them, they wanted me to join the voice chat. And so, it was like, there was a couple hours left. And so I think I came in there, their chat is not Ronick. And I think that kind of gave me away. What about you, Midas?
That's funny. You just gave a cheat code. Like when you're PA testing, make sure to get people in voice chat. I could throw on the halfling voice, maybe. Like if I go into a group, I'll do the halfling voice, and everyone loves that.
Too soon. You've experienced it as a player and as a member of the team, so I'm curious about your perspective on it.
Yeah, and it's actually exciting to kind of openly talk about a little bit more. Some people might have heard pieces of these stories from like Pantheon Plus days, but it's, I have been with VR for a little over a year, but before that, I was playing as a player. So some of the stuff I'll start with, like as a tester, it was really cool because you did run into devs quite a bit. I always saw Madaki standing around somewhere. He was always standing around somewhere.
And he's standing around in our chat too.
But what was cool and what I've noticed is that the devs are definitely looking for...
Madaki's just everywhere. He's right though. Like it's I don't know who asked that question, and there really are no bad questions, but I think anybody who's done any sort of testing before knows that the devs are extremely involved. I mean, it's this, like, yes, it's a small company, but it's a very hands-on development team. This is not the sort of thing where they just like flip on the servers and then just let them go. It's like they're very very much like involved and amongst the community.
People to stumble upon
even in Twitch streams. Glad you guys are here.
secrets, or be the first one to discover a cave that leads to something. So we had some pretty cool experiences where David, you and Joppa were both kind of watching us when we discovered the bandit camp. I think we were, if not the first, one of the first to discover, like, climbing up this big cave path and working our way into the bandit area. And they were really watching us try to like establish a foothold there. And then in Haunir's cave, we found a boss that I won't say much about. And man, was it crazy. You were there for that one. And we spent like 3 hours trying to get to this boss and failed, like died in front of it. But Chris and you were there and chatting with us as we were trying to go up. I think the funniest thing, though, as a tester that I'll share, and I've never told this, is with you, we were in the bandit camp. And we were clearing and trying to get like a spawned, like a good spawn rate so we could stay in the camp and get a good experience. And one of the wizards just started going crazy. Like it ran off to the side and it's casting all these spells. And like we were like, what is going on? And Ronick's here with his character Invisible, GM Invisible, and he's fighting this thing and we can't see him. And we just think this wizard's like going nuts. That was pretty funny. And then all of a sudden we see Ronick says, I got it. I'm like, where are you? So that was pretty fun. As part of the team, I actually try to volunteer for GM work when I can and when I'm around and get off work. So it's really fun. I kind of just float around and as a content creator, look at certain things or try to get screenshots, which will be really exciting this time around, even videos of other groups playing. But I'm always around on minus the halfling if I'm in GM mode. And to be honest, if I join a group, I'm usually like another math term. So obviously I'm not trying very hard to be incognito, but like multiplication joins your group. Yeah. So, but you never know. I mean, I know that a lot of different devs have played incognito, have been around watching. I would love to get permission to spawn bears on people. Or David, I kind of said if I made a cave that was kind of empty, if there was a cave I just sat in as minus and I summoned a bunch of bears into it, and then just randomly summon players in and see if they can fight their way out. That would be a really cool event. But I'll probably get in trouble if I do that.
So that was a long answer for yes. Yes, we do play. And
Didn't Ashes do something like that during one of their test sessions where they just? I feel like I remember seeing a screenshot on the web of just like hundreds and hundreds of bears that spawn. I don't know if it was intentional. I don't know if it was a bug or like a GM event, but those sort of things are super fun. I think they've talked about in the past in PA1. There's a screenshot of it somewhere out on the web that they released publicly, actually, that in pre-alpha 1 they spawned one of the GMs, probably Kilson, spawned a dragon right in the middle of Thronefast, and some like giant tree ant mobs also. It's just one of those things just for fun. I guess you can kind of get some testing data out of it too. Like, they're touting this new vinyl networking technology and talking about how much, concurrent network traffic and on-screen activity that it can handle and such. And, a great way to test that is to have a lot of collision-enabled objects like, NPCs and characters and all that sorts of things on screen at once, all occupying a small space, and see how the game handles it. It's both fun, but you can also get some good data out of that. So they did that in PA1. I'm not aware of had them really doing that much since. Maybe because the server technology couldn't really handle it that way, and they knew they were going to be upgrading their network tech. I don't know. So maybe with vinyl, I'd be curious to see how many NPCs and players can you just get in one place and just have this really chaotic event. I think that sort of thing's really fun. Like the memories that are associated with that are really strong, and like that's the sort of thing that I'm sure, years down the line, after launch and everything, that they're gonna be we'll look back and like, oh, remember the time they spawned a dragon in PA1? Like, those are the days, like way back at the beginning. Oh, Madaki's corrected me, saying the tree ants were PA2. A whole grove of tree ants. Is that the proper term for a plural group of tree ants? A grove of tree ants?
And obviously we were excited. We're excited to have you guys come in. We're excited to be in there with you. We're excited to watch the game, develop with you. So yes, is the answer to that one.
the chat saying the minus bear raids, the bear trials. That'd be fun. So that's it for burning questions. I hope everyone enjoyed those. Good questions from our VIP community. Thank you to our VIP community for everything you do for us. It was exciting to get some of those out there. But one of the common questions that we received from the VIP community when collecting the burning questions was about like what classes would be present in the upcoming test. So rather than take one of the burning questions, since we just did 10, we went right to the source of class design and Adam Mostel to give us that answer, as well as provide some update on some of these classes.
Yeah, that's right. And not only that, but I think the playable class announcement is going to get some people excited. So why don't we head over to Professor Adam over here for the update?
Sounds good. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. This is Senior Game Designer Adam Taham Mostel, here to give you all an update on what's new with our playable classes as we get ready to bring our testers back into pre-alpha. Recently, we announced that our next pre-alpha session will feature 7 playable classes: the Dire Lord, the Rogue, the Monk, the Wizard, the Enchanter, the Shaman, and a new entry to our roster that I know many players are excited to get their hands on, the Cleric. Today I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Dire Lord, the Wizard, and the Shaman. First up, we'll talk about the Dire Lord. While the Dire Lord hasn't changed as much as some of our other classes, updates to our combat fundamentals and the addition of new systems such as techniques have given us an opportunity to revisit how the Dire Lord plays in action.
I'm gonna call that concept art. I mean, it's concept art for the races that they're putting on screen. Even though it's concept art we've seen before, it's still concept art. Now I'm really banking on a Q&A with chat. We'll see. I kind of feel, I don't know. I think it might be a little bit of a stretch to say that the 10 burning questions was a Q&A. I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, because, well, it was a Q&A. It wasn't really with chat, though. That's what's kind of hanging me up, because, you know, they took questions from the community and then they answered them. But it was questions from, like, the forums, I think, and not from live Twitch chat. Yeah. Bummer. We'll see.
Include an increased emphasis on actively managing their unique class resource, Essence, both in spending it and regaining it, refinements to the Dire Lord's threat management tools, providing them with some new abilities to play with while also making sure that threat is something that the party still needs to remain aware of, improving the availability and usefulness of defensive cooldowns, and giving Dire Lords more opportunities to actively mitigate or respond to incoming damage, and expanding the Dire Lord's class identity around draining the essence and vitality of their enemies. Now let's look at some of the new and updated abilities Dire Lords can expect to see in the coming pre-alpha. Please keep in mind that as we are in pre-alpha, ability names, effects, values, and tooltips are all subject to change. For the Dire Lord, we'll be looking at Boil Blood, Essence Harvester, Devour Constitution, Blood Fiend, and Call of the Dire. First up is Boil Blood. A new ability in the Dire Lord's arsenal, Boil Blood is a damage over time effect that enhances the Dire Lord's offensive capabilities and helps them to continue building threat. This is the first representation of a spell-like ability for the Dire Lords, with a cast time that can be both interrupted and silenced. Next, let's look at Essence Harvester. When we showcased the monk in June, we saw the introduction of techniques, weapon-based attacks tied to their own resource and typically differentiated by the type of weapon that a player has equipped. Monks received an ability called Resonating Impact, a general technique that could be used regardless of the type of weapon that was equipped. All of our non-caster classes can expect to see a similar technique acquired at level 2. In the case of the Dire Lord, that technique is Essence Harvester, an attack that is less potent than similar techniques, but restores essence to the Dire Lord, and enables them to use other abilities in their kit. You'll also notice that this ability includes an attribute bonus, a new element in our combat design where certain abilities will deal bonus damage based on the value of those attributes. Devour Constitution is
Okay, that's interesting because, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going off memory here, but didn't that used to be a factor in abilities? It was in the tooltips. It would say which attributes contributed to that ability, and then that was something that like disappeared for like a while, like maybe even like a couple of years, and then now they're reintroducing it, which I'm glad for, by the way, because I think it's really smart design. I think that's a good thing. I think that's how it should be. But yeah, Rancid Turnip knows what I'm talking about. It was fairly brief, but there was a period, I don't know, like 2018, I want to say, or like 2018 when, you know what, we have the library and we have the time to, let me see if, I don't know for sure, but let's switch over to the library here to see if we can, let's see if we can find an example. It's gonna be a while ago. So I'm looking for attribute, and ability modifying attributes. It would be the other way around. Ability modifying attributes. Maybe this.
But as you hover over your abilities, you're going to see even at the bottom this modifying attributes line. And you're going to see how several different abilities are amplified, even more so than just your level or the grade of the ability. They're amplified directly through your attributes. And so the higher your health is, the more that kind of special absorb shield on your heal is going to absorb before it fades. Then you've got, I believe, Word of the Lightful, which is kind of your really fast casting, more mana inefficient, but much
Right? That's pretty much what he was saying, right? I feel like I should label this of attributes modifying abilities, right? I think that would be a more accurate way to label it, but it's the same principle, right? Let me go back.
This ability Dire Lord, and enables them to use other abilities in their kit. You'll also notice that this ability includes an attribute bonus, a new element in our combat design where certain abilities will deal bonus damage based on the value of those attributes.
That's the same thing, right? Am I misunderstanding it? I'm not gonna like be too hard on them for saying like that's not new, especially since Tahom's only been on the team for, a year or so, a little bit more than a year. So he might not even know that this was 2018. This is a re-upload. Moxie, who's one of the curators at the library, actually captured this VOD and then re-uploaded it to her own channel just so that we could have it for archive purposes. But this was originally this is one of the streams that the devs did with the community back in 2018. This would have been post PAX. So this was like the summer of 2018. When they went around and did a handful of streams with various different streamers, and this was one of them. And yeah, iGouge says, man, hard to believe that video was 4 years ago now, right? That's pretty crazy. And like, I wish we had gameplay footage in this stream to compare it to, but I mean, you can see, anybody who's seen gameplay of Pantheon recently, you can see how different, like, this is the old codex. I mean, even the tooltips, the old icon, the ability UI down here, like character models, environment art, like you can see, just at a glance how much has changed. And maybe when we go ahead in the video and they start talking about world building, if they don't have any comparison, side-by-side comparison footage, we can go back in the library and see the difference. Because I think it's really, really, I can't overstate how important it is to keep things in perspective and not get too narrowly focused on just what's going on like right now, or what's, how this month compares to last month. Like that's part of it, but you also got to compare, different angles and time frames, and like what's the difference over the different span of time. So it's like, you go back 1 month, you go back 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, etc. All helps to kind of get a better idea of how things are actually going.
Devour Constitution is another new ability allowing the Dire Lord to rob an enemy of their Constitution attribute, which contributes to armor, resists, and mitigating incoming damage, and claim it for themselves. Here you can also see another new addition to our combat design, where the potency of this ability will increase based on a given attribute, allowing us to keep abilities relevant as players level without needing to introduce new tiers of abilities where we don't want to. Keep an eye out.
I just want to point out too, since I'm talking about it, and then I promise I will let this video play, but it feels like a good opportunity to plug. If you aren't already aware and you want to improve your broad understanding and perspective of Pantheon's development, go to the Library of Pantheon. It's libraryofpantheon.com. This is a site that I helped make with some other people in the community. And I don't make any money from promoting this. I mean, this is a site that I made that it's free to use. This is that we just put the information out there for people to have because we feel like it's important. That's why it's the only reason I'm plugging it is because it is there for your benefit and I want you to benefit from it. It's all laid out. If you're willing to just take some time because you want to learn more about Pantheon, head on over and see what you can find. Really spend some time digging through all this, and you'll be surprised what you can learn and the sort of connections that you can make. Again, it's easier having been in the community myself for so long and having watched all of these streams as they happen. It becomes easier to remember. Like a lot of people ask me, like, how could you possibly remember these things that they said 4 years ago? Like this example, like of the attributes that modify abilities. It's a lot easier to remember things when you live through them and saw them firsthand. And sometimes it's just like, sometimes you just hear something that will just kind of like trigger this little thought in your mind and be like, that sounds familiar. And then that's where you go to the library and you kind of start tugging on that thread and start digging through and investigating and see what you can find. Again, it's very, very helpful once you can get used to where things are and how to utilize this. Like this is a tool. It's there's a lot of information. You can't just absorb it all via osmosis. It takes some time and you got to learn how to use it with some practice. But once you do, the Pantheon's development will start to make a heck of a lot more sense. It's very complicated, very long. I don't blame anybody for maybe getting frustrated or confused by it, but again, the answers are there if you're willing to look for them.
Out for similar statements on our other abilities, as some will scale with skill levels as well. Bloodfiend has seen a substantial revision, having been transformed from its original self-poison cleanse into a defensive cooldown that enables the Dire Lord to restore health with their attacks. The self-healing effect of Bloodfiend is also an example of our state synergies. In this case, Dire Lords who want to make the most of Bloodfiend can coordinate with their group to ensure an enemy is placed into a bleeding state before unleashing their most potent attacks. Finally, Call of the Dire is an ability that was first introduced in our last pre-alpha session. This ability has been rebalanced, providing Dire Lords with a potent tool for locking down enemy behavior for a period of time, at the expense of being unable to take any other actions while doing so. Next, let's take a look at our most potent spellcaster, the Wizard. We last spoke about the Wizard back in our February newsletter, where we glimpsed at some of what players could expect in the class's early gameplay experience. Today, we'll go a little bit deeper, recapping some of the changes we've already discussed and seeing how those changes play out in their abilities. Updates to the Wizard include a reimagining of their unique class resources, Focus, to reduce mana costs the more that a wizard concentrates in a single element, the addition of Weaving, allowing players to maintain focus charges across multiple elements and rewarding them with damage bonuses for doing so, strengthening the wizard's class fantasy of being a glass cannon, dealing enormous amounts of damage in less frequent bursts, and reinforcing the identities of the different elements available to the wizard, with Cold providing a mid-range option of damage, cast time, and mana cost, Fire providing heavier damage per cast at the expense of longer cast times, and Shock allowing for faster but less powerful casts. Today's ability highlights for the wizard include Ice Lance, Spell Reflection, Cold Snap, Focus Fire, and Refocus. Ice Lance is a new area of effect spell, dealing damage in a line between the wizard and their target and rewarding skillful positioning to maximize its effect. Spell Reflection is another new addition to the Wizard kit. A defensive cooldown, Spell Reflection allows a wizard to wield their mastery of spellcraft and force an incoming offensive spell on themselves or an ally to be reflected back upon its caster.
You know, I want to pause here to just underscore how much I like this format for talking about class abilities. And it really does feel like, I know they said like classes in session, like it really does feel like a class. Because they're doing, Dahome is presenting the information very professionally in that, you know, here's what we're going to go over. Okay, we're talking about the wizard. These are the abilities that we're going to be talking about. A, B, C, D, and E. First, we have this one, and then reading what's on screen. It makes it very easy to follow, very easy to comprehend. And again, minus if you're still watching, I give a little idea that I just had where I think this sort of thing, like you could even take this audio from this section and cut it down. Even for each class, you could have a section just for the wizard, cut that audio out, put it over some gameplay footage of the wizard in game, maybe using these abilities, and then just throw that up on YouTube. And like you have like a 5-minute video for each of the classes and just highlighting a few of their kind of key abilities. Again, just having that isolated on YouTube makes it much easier to access for people. And I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be fun to watch. Kind of reminds me of like, I think I've talked about how I used to play Heroes of the Storm quite a bit, and every time that they would release a new hero, they would have like a highlight video for that hero and talking about like, here's what the wizard does, and then going over the abilities and like showing them in action, and then really just describing, just like this, exactly what they do. And those were always a lot of fun to watch, and they're super short, super easy to watch and to share. And I know this is not like a revolutionary idea, because I think minus actually one of the first videos you did for VR was a similar thing like that for the monk, where it showed the monk using the abilities in game and talking about them and that sort of thing. And I think you actually did the voiceover for that one, and that was great. And whether it's you doing the voiceover or Dahome talking about it from a design perspective, I know I'm sure he's very busy, but having more videos like that, or that's everybody will just soak those up. It's tough because, like Dahome said at the beginning, sometimes the abilities will change. You don't want to get people getting too heavily invested of like, well, it said in the video, it said it was going to consume 1 point of cold focus, and now it consumes 2 points of cold focus. Darn you, VR! And then you like whatever ridiculousness. But just a thought that I had, like this information is very well presented here. But I think it would be even more effective, and I know it's more to produce, but breaking these off, isolating them with gameplay footage, then that will really get people's attention.
Cold Snap is a new focus consuming ability. While wizards are encouraged to maintain their focus charges for the mana reduction and bonus damage effects, we're also providing them tools to leverage those focus charges for a variety of other effects. In this case, an instant burst of additional damage. Focus Fire is a similar spell, consuming focus to deal instant damage, but unlike Cold Snap, Focus Fire draws upon whichever element has the highest concentration of focus charges, transforming its damage type to match that element and dealing increased damage for each charge consumed. Last in our wizard preview is Refocus. The ultimate form of focus consumption, Refocus consumes all focus charges across all elements, restoring mana to the wizard with each charge consumed. Our last class preview for today is the Shaman. In May's Developer Roundtable, we confirmed that each of our healers is designed around a different form of healing, with Druids focused on direct healing, Clerics on barriers and mitigation, and Shamans on healing over time, with each class's broader arsenal complementing their primary healing style. In the case of the Shaman, that broader arsenal includes a renewed emphasis on powerful buffs and debuffs, allowing shamans to strengthen allies and weaken foes in order to give their regenerative spells time to work their magic, improvements to the durations of their buffs and debuffs, placing the emphasis on successful application of effects rather than micromanaging timers, a consolidation of their damage over time abilities, eliminating redundancies on the shaman's limited action bar and giving them more room for offensive debuffs, and the addition of mitigative spells and cooldowns for when healing over time needs a little bit of a boost. For this preview, we'll be looking at Wind Ward, Second Sight, Amaurosis, Windstrider, and Memory of Flame. Wind Ward is one of the new mitigative spells available to the Shaman, allowing an ally to absorb a number of physical damage sources that increases as the Shaman improves their conjuration skill. With an extended duration, Wind Ward is an optimal spell to prepare on all allies before charging into battle. Second Sight is a new dual-purpose spell. Primarily acting as a cleanse for blind effects, Second Sight can also be used in an emergency to guarantee an ally dodges the next incoming physical attack. A new debuff in the Shaman arsenal, Amaurosis inflicts a long-lasting accuracy penalty, making it an excellent mitigative tool to try and land at the start of battle. Windstrider has been updated to interface with our new sprint mechanic. As mentioned in our June stream, we're moving away from providing players with long-lasting increases to overall movement speed. Instead, most movement increasing effects will now improve sprint instead, with Windstrider enabling players to sprint much faster for much longer. Finally, Memory of Flame is a new synergistic debuff available to shamans. While this spell doesn't have much of an effect on its own, when paired with a powerful source of fire damage, Memory of Flame can greatly reduce a target's resistance to fire, ensuring future sources of fire damage are resisted less frequently and deliver their maximum impact. This is just a preview of some of the abilities that have been updated or added as part of our larger combat and class updates, with many more remaining to be discovered. We're excited to bring our testers back into pre-alpha in the very near future and can't wait to see how you tackle the challenges that lie ahead. If you aren't currently a pre-alpha tester, pledges are still available at PantheonMMO.com, including our limited-time Scion of the Black Rose pledge. As a crowd-funded game, all funds raised through pledges go directly back into supporting the development of Pantheon, and we are always grateful for your support. I look forward to seeing our testers back in Terminus very soon. Until then, onwards and upwards.
Oh, we got that one too.
Cleric officially announced to the community for the upcoming test. I know that some of the VIP and the astute members of the Discord community may know this was coming through, through various discussions Adam took part in, but I think it's still pretty big news for the community as an entirety. What are your thoughts? I mean, I'm excited. I think Cleric's a really cool addition. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, anyone who knows me at all or has heard me rant and rave knows that Cleric is the healing class that I've looked forward to. I love the heavy armor, the blunt force style healing, especially when it's combined with being in a melee range like that and doing some damage. So all that aside, I've had some time, actually, a little teaser here, to play some Cleric as we were ramping up content over last month, and I'm enjoying it where it's at greatly. I think there's some things from a technique standpoint that testers are going to enjoy, and some rather surprising parts of their toolkit, which I am not going to spoil. But there's no doubt in my mind that I'll be creating an alt Cleric, hands down, always planned on it, but it'll definitely get a lot of love on my account when Pantheon launches. But for you, David, you've spent in different streams and in playtesting, you've spent a lot of time as a shaman. I know you like Enchanter as well, but what are your thoughts on some of the changes and the abilities that were highlighted?
Yeah, I'm excited to see the shamans, continue to play a role not only as a healer but as utility as well. I'm personally still deciding for my main whether it's going to be an enchanter or a shaman, and these updates kind of just make it harder. I love the renewed emphasis on buffs and debuffs. Wind Ward seems like a great spell to add to the arsenal. Love that, just like one powerful ward, having that on the on the limited action bar. Memory of Flame sounds like an amazing one for dungeons and raids for sure. And I'm a big fan of anything that makes you run faster, except for when you break your arm.
Yeah. You may or may not have been testing sprint. Everyone's like, well, how did he break it? He may or may not have been testing sprint.
But yeah, I'm excited for players to experience what the team has in store for the speed buffs and sprint in general. I think it's going to be a little different than what they're used to.
All right. So definitely a lot to be excited about. I love classes. I think that it's something that resonates with all of us because that eventually becomes our role and what we are. But that said, let's head into our final segment for the day.
Okay, so before we wrap up the stream, this last segment, we want to leave you a look kind of where we were in the last testing, showing the experience in pre-alpha in 2021 and what it looks like now. But before we do, again, I just want to reiterate what Adam was talking about earlier, your pledges, your excitement, your dedication. The community is what drives the opportunity for us to keep going strong and to push Pantheon towards launch. The Scion pledge, which he talked about, is our newest limited time pledge that you can get into pre-alpha. Everything that we've been talking about today, come experience it for yourself. Enjoy it. It's at our lowest price. If you want to get on board to help test and provide feedback or just support Pantheon and look at alpha and beta packages, please head over to the pledge page, pantheonmmo.com. Please come join us. I'm excited. For this next session.
Yeah, I think that's maybe one of the things that we didn't even talk about when they asked if we're in the testing sessions and what we like to do. We probably enjoy the testing, just as much, if not more, than the testers. Like, we love it. There is an excitement and a passion that comes through this team when we get to open up pre-alpha servers. And we're just as excited to announce a date as you guys are to hear one, trust me. So what David said, though, is 100%.
Okay, let's haven't checked in a while, so we got 10 minutes. No, 5 minutes. A little less than 5 minutes left of the stream. And still nobody's gotten bingo yet. I just want to check. They still have no bingo. I'm looking at my card. We're going into like the world building section. On my card, there might be a screenshot. Probably no gameplay footage. So just to clarify, we're talking about gameplay footage. Like, that's actually, from the perspective of a character, running around in the world. Flyover video, obviously, is pretty self-descriptive. That's when they go into GM mode and they can fly up into the air and then just kind of like move to see the world from above, or really any perspective that you wouldn't normally have as a player. Gameplay footage is from the perspective that you would have as a player, and then obviously a screenshot is a still image. So it's possible we might have some of those. I think those are probably at this point my best chances. If I'm having to guess, I could get screenshot gameplay footage, or I might get flyover. I don't think they've said bean yet. That would be pretty lucky. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not optimistic.
True from top to bottom. Thank you from all of our hearts. I can speak for the whole team there, I think, when I say thank you. And remember, not just checking the pledge page, but follow us on social media. Leave feedback, words of encouragement, or what you want to see change, your thoughts and opinions. Sharing out the updates to friends and family. Like, that's what we are. We're a small community, and we still believe community matters. We fight hard for that. So spread the word about Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. And don't forget, next week, we'll have our newsletter coming out, David. So you'll be able to get more updates on our roadmap to alpha, which we always try to give you some updates there in the newsletter. So, David, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that wraps it up for us. So we won't be seeing you guys anymore, but we'll leave you with a cool video to kind of give you an idea of the last time testers were in 2001 versus what they can expect.
Did he say
in
2022? Did he say 2001? I mean, I know it's been a while, but it hasn't been 21 years. Okay, this is gameplay footage. That's gameplay footage. Are we going to get a screenshot? I don't know. He said video. Oh. And this is a flyover video. Okay, so far not bad. We're one away in two different spots. So I shouldn't be pausing this so much. Looks good though. Look at the armor. Wow. Hey, it's Thorndeep. Well, I am kind of sad. I'm only sad because I didn't get bingo.
Oh, I should show off my...
Whoops. But, I mean, obviously, wow, what a great way to end that stream. And there's not even really that much to say about it. I mean, it's night and day, but I'm going to go back here. Like, and using the sweeping transition. I mean, that pretty much tells you all you need to know right there. See if I can find another one that lines up even better. That almost doesn't... Is that really the same area? Where was this? Oh, this is like up in the... Oh, up in the bandit camps. In the mountains. Oh. Oh, yeah, I guess it is. Oh, yeah, so that whole bridge is new, I think. Yeah, I mean, you can't... It almost looks like a good... Almost looks like a completely different game. Whoops. That's on my end. Come on, give us... Come on, internet. Give us the 1080p. The music is really good. I'll unmute the music. I'm gonna turn it down though, because it is kind of loud in the video. Oh yeah, this is a nice wide view shot. Boom. Oh, I thought I was gonna be able to pause it. It's a little too late. But yeah, this is much more almost perfectly lined up. But I mean, again, talk about getting a sense of perspective. Like I know the gray box phase of Pantheon was difficult for many of us and not something that we'll miss, but you know, it was kind of the, you know, when all you can see are rough geometrical shapes, it can be hard to keep that sense of perspective and imagine what it will look like. And fortunately, we don't need to imagine it anymore because there it is, you know. And yeah, this might not be 100% complete, but it's looking much more like a real, believable, livable world. Yeah, Tumadin, they have a whole soundtrack. If you can go to the library of Pantheon, everything is there. When I say that this is a useful resource, I really mean it. Like, you can find pretty much anything you want. If you go to the library of Pantheon, you go to the basics. One of the things is their SoundCloud, which has all of their soundtrack that they've released so far. A lot of this has been out for like 7 years. I think 2015 was when this was released. For those of you who don't know, Joppa, who's currently the creative director and creative and programming producer, he originally joined the team as a composer. That's how he got onto the team. He made this music. He composed this music and released it when he first joined the team in 2015. Or he joined the team, I think, in late 2014, but he was promoted to creative director in 2015. But yeah, he was the music guy for a long time, and that's how he got his foot in the door. And it's really high quality music. But now that he's taken on more of the producer role, he doesn't really have time to do that so much anymore. So they're going to be looking to find a full-time composer to kind of pick up where he left off. But yeah, I mean, and this is the music, guys, that I use in my YouTube videos as well. Like, that's not just any random fantasy music. Like, all of the videos on my YouTube channel, when I'm talking about Pantheon, utilize the official Pantheon soundtrack as background music, because it's that good. You just listen to it in your free time. There's a song for every mood. And then even just some sound effects like this. Like, that's when you complete a quest, that's a little trumpet fanfare. This is kind of more of like a slow, mysterious, almost kind of sad song. And then this is also like a slower one. I think this is the one that they played at the end of their stream when the website showed up. And this is like the main theme. This is an epic song. mean, if that doesn't get you amped up and ready to play Pantheon, I don't know what will. Yeah, you're gonna bookmark the library of Pantheon? Good. Everybody should do that. Have it right at your fingertips. Seriously, just spend some time go through the directory, go through each page here and see and see what's there. Again, like you don't need to memorize everything, but just knowing what is there available to you will serve you well in the long run. I can promise you that. You got everything. So kind of like the most fundamental things you need to know about the game, and you know, a lot of these are links to their official platforms and stuff where you can get more information. And then of course we got the alpha tracker, which takes the updates that we were talking about earlier for the road to alpha, which they release in the newsletter. We take those from the newsletter, put them on the alpha tracker and catalog them in a way that you can compare them to all of the previous months. So rather than having to go back and to all of the previous newsletters, we have them all right here side by side. So, you know, you can look at any one of these items and see how it has evolved over time. So like class development, see that it was updated recently. This is the most recent update. I mean, you can go back and see, okay, what would they do last month, and what did they do on the month before, et cetera, et cetera. And if you do want to see the original newsletter where that information was sourced from, you just click on the date right here, boop, pop it open, and there you go. There's your April 22 producers letter. You can read through that full thing there. It's all there for you. And also we just recently added these share buttons, because again, information is best when it's shared. And so you share this with your friends on Facebook, your followers on Twitter, you could email it to your buddy, you know, anybody who's interested in Pantheon. This is the place to go. Again, this is all free. There's not even any ads. There's an option to donate if you want, because, you know, websites aren't free to run, but it's so important to us that this information be accessible to anybody who wants it. So the donation is completely 100% optional. But anyway, you get the idea. Back to the stream we were watching. This before and after. Good stuff. Overall, I think that was a solid stream. Definitely coming in clutch with this video at the end here, because, you know, most of the stream was just talking, particularly about pre-alpha testing, which, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. I know a lot of people get too focused on the eye candy, and they're really, really, you know, determined to make a judgment call on where Pantheon is and how progress is coming, so that they can predict when it's gonna come out and stuff. And that gets really messy, you know, because this is a lot of the stuff that they were talking about in the video, like about pre-alpha testing and stuff, like that's important. It might not be 95% of this stream might not be that pretty to look at. Like it might be kind of talking, which might just get dry sometimes, but it's still nonetheless still very important to understand. So I think this is a solid stream. Like I said, it can be tough to, again, when you get into that perspective and you're like, you know, you were paying attention last month, and you know, it's really easy to let the emotions get the better of you, and you're starting to get like, you're getting really hyped, and because there's so much good news last month, and you're like, oh, maybe we're gonna get even more news this month, and you just keep wanting like more and more and more, which is understandable because it is exciting. There's exciting things happening, no doubt about that. But if you, again, just I can't harp on it enough. Keeping things in perspective, it might feel inclined to almost feel kind of disappointed by the stream, but I don't think there's really any reason to be disappointed by the stream. I think they communicated well in it, and clearly good things are on their way with testing upcoming in September. So, that's try not to fall into that, letting yourself just go on this like emotional roller coaster of up and down and up and down, because that will just wear you out and it'll make it really hard to stay focused over long periods of time, because game development is a marathon and not a sprint. And as exciting as the future of this game is, it is also very healthy to kind of like temper the expectations and just kind of take it as it is month by month, and time will go by faster than you think it will. Tumaden says, I'm disappointed that I don't have the money for a pledge and I'm going to miss out on seeing everything next month. Well, I am sorry to hear that, but you're not really going to be missing out on everything. Like, it's understandable, this is why I don't tell people how to spend their money. In fact, I don't think I have ever actually asked anybody to pledge to Pantheon, because everybody's got their own different financial situations, and it's not up to me to even suggest how you should spend your money. As much as I may dream of, winning the lottery or something, or having making friends with some rich guy who wants to, fully fund Pantheon or whatever, because we all want to get in there and we all want it to release as soon as possible, but sometimes that's just not the reality for some people. So, but the good news is that you're not going to miss out on seeing everything next month, because, like I said at the beginning of the stream, CoCarnage is going to be streaming his pre-alpha test session next month. So, obviously, yes, be best to have actually hands-on and experiencing it firsthand, but the next best thing is having somebody else who can kind of bring you in there with them, even if it is via stream, but it'd be live. So it's like, it's kind of in the passenger seat there, and at least get to see how things are going. Yeah, Code does a great job with his streams, those Pantheon streams in the past. It has been a long time since he has done one during a pre-alpha test. In fact, let's go back to the library, and I think it was 2018. These were those community streams. One of these gameplay streams, MMO All-Star, the Dire Lord gameplay. Was this it? August? I kind of want to say that was during a pre-alpha test session. I think there were some other players in the background there. I'm going to check. I'm going to see if there are any other ones. There are a lot of gameplay streams in 2018. This is after PAX, so they were on a really big publicity run, showing off Black Rose Keep in particular. Pre-alpha 2 gameplay. Oh, look at this. Boom, found it. Yeah, so I don't know, let's just click on a random link. Pre-alpha 2, that long ago.
So if we had not found that key at the beginning, then we just couldn't progress through here.
Correct.
Not a great example, because we don't want necessarily for the perception system to work as like a hard gateway. Lock. Yeah, we don't want it to necessarily be that way. Were this more of like a flavor area where you're going to run into some NPCs you can maybe interact with and learn some stuff about this.
So
this
they're in
dungeon. I
They're in
absolutely think
Halnir
that would be-
Cave. Is this was
Back? Yeah,
during?
just
Was this during a
back to
pre-alpha
LOS
test
on,
session
but-
They
though?
have a
I'm
ranged
trying.
attack, I think, is the issue. 4 menders.
The one that I remember was in Black Rose
So
Keep.
I don't know if a game would actually start.
Oh, Tumaden says Bed said in chat yesterday that nobody's gonna be allowed to stream the next session. Does Ko get to? Yes, Ko has already announced like last month that he is going to be streaming the pre-alpha test session, but Ben was probably talking about anybody that's not Ko, you know, because Ko has been streaming the game since 2016. Like he gets kind of special privileges because because it's so mutually beneficial, especially for VR, to be able to present gameplay to his audience. His audience is so big. So they kind of have that special partnership set up. And yeah, like Thorndeep said, Ko is an investor in Pantheon now. Actually, he was a part of that $2.4 million investment that was injected into VR last month. And so because not only is he a streamer with a large audience, but he's also financially invested in that in the company. And so yeah, of course they're gonna pretty much let him almost stream whenever he wants, I would think. he has more than earned that right. But that's because he is co-carnage. So you'll still get a glimpse into the pre-alpha testing session, but yeah, it's not the sort of thing that they're not just gonna let anybody stream whenever they want, because they can't really keep all of that accountable, you know. Dossie says Convo's still with the team. No, he's not. He's not listed on the team page. Tim Wathen. He was a game designer. Yeah, he's not listed on the team page, but from what I have heard, and again, this is just secondhand information, so take it with a grain of salt, but I heard that he just had some real life things that kind of took his focus away from games development for now. But he was very much a beloved member of the team, and so he is more than welcome, from what I've heard, to return to the team whenever he has the opportunity and the time to do so. Yeah, Convo is a good guy. I met him at PAX, and yeah, he was in a lot of these streams in 2018. Yeah, Matthew just kind of confirmed what I said. He had personal stuff. Joppa hopes to bring him back at some point. Primus says Ko's basically an unpaid promoter. I mean, yeah, pretty much. I mean, because he's just a fan of the game. I mean, it's like a complete gift to VR that he has an existing large audience, and then he basically approaches them and says, "Hey, I really like your game. I want to help it be successful." And originally that started off with just like, I mean, he's been a huge help to the community and to VR just by giving the game a bigger platform, just putting it in front of the eyes of people who probably wouldn't have otherwise even heard of it, because obviously VR's marketing budget's very limited. So the guy comes up to you and says, "Hey, I like your game. I want to help it be successful, and I want to play it on my channel, and I'll do it for free." Like, obviously you're gonna take that. And then that was the relationship for a while, and then now just recently he comes out and says, on top of all of that, yeah, I also gave them, invested X amount of money. Like, he clearly is just doing everything he can to help the game do well. And I think that's awesome because he cares about it, because there really isn't any other game just like Pantheon in development right now, and he clearly sees a lot of value in it coming to fruition. Matthew says we need more huge streamers like that. Yeah, I mean, the time will come when Pantheon is more polished that it will start to get more attention from other streamers. But I mean, you can't expect them all to be that like altruistic that and have the same level of passion for this type of game. Like that's just part of what makes Co-Carnage, you know. To have him get involved so early with that's very unique and unusual, but it's the foot in the door. Like Co-Carnage has just had a huge, long-lasting impact on Pantheon's visibility, because obviously other big streamers, they know of Co-Carnage and they watch what he's playing, even if they're not playing it themselves. Like now they've probably at least heard of Pantheon, a lot of them. And so when the time comes, again, when the game starts becoming more accessible to more people and it becomes more polished and more fun to play and more fun to watch, then those other streamers start hearing about like, oh yeah, Pantheon, like I heard of that. I know that's the game that Co-Carnage plays and stuff. And then further down the line, it starts kind of like snowballing and stuff. And that's the power of word of mouth. That's marketing in the 2020s. That's and the best thing is that it's free for VR. Like that amount of exposure is insane, but it has to be done right. It has to be moderated, because the timing for when you really start to make those sorts of pushes really, really matters. And so that's why at this stage, they're not going to just open it up to anybody, because they know Co-Carnage wants what's best for Pantheon. And so he's I find him to be a reasonable guy. I don't think he's not gonna go up there and start like slamming the game or showing parts of it that aren't ready to be showed or anything like that. So whereas if you just get some random Joe Schmo off the street, like you don't know what he's gonna do. So that can definitely cause problems for the company. But that matters more when things are still in progress, again, because your average MMO consumer might be more quick to make some brash judgments about what they see in a split second. Like we were talking about gray boxing. That's not the sort of thing you want the entire MMO industry to see, because people are going to see that and they're not going to understand the context. They don't have the perspective to understand where that fits in the overall game development. They're going to be like, this looks like garbage, and then they're going to click away. So it's times like that where they really have to kind of be careful on how it's presented. But again, that's why it's so nice to see that that gray box is getting replaced and more things are starting to come online and get polished, and it's starting to look more palatable to the average MMO player. Like people who just want to play the game. They don't care about how it's developed. They're not interested in MMO development like some of us. They're interested in playing MMOs, and they're going to look at it and then be like, how fun does this look like? How much fun would I have if I were playing this game based on 15 seconds that I'm getting right now? That's how most people are going to approach it. That's just the reality. And the game is now starting to get to a point, from my perspective, where they can gradually start opening those gates a little bit and allowing one by one, allowing more people to stream it and allow the game to get in front of more eyes and starting to get that snowball rolling, because it's a chain reaction. But once you let the cat out of the bag, it's hard to get it back in. If you let anybody and everybody stream the game during gray box, like that's going to be the image that's imprinted in so many players' minds about Pantheon, and they're going to jump to conclusions about that, and that would be bad. So, but it seems to me, my intuition is that gradually we're at just the cusp of more and more streamers starting to turn their eyes to Pantheon. That's all part of the imminence of 2022. I know a lot of people understandably associate that just with alpha starting, but it's more. It's really, there's more to it than that. So when Joppa, at the beginning of this year, talked about the imminence and people feeling Pantheon's imminence in 2022, it's the conversation among the general public is most likely going to start to change noticeably by the end of 2022. I think that's kind of the take home there. I want to I want to clear that up now before we get to the end of 2022. Because this is something to keep an eye out for, and see what people are saying about Pantheon and what they have said in the past and how that starts to change. I think that'll be really interesting to see. What the general tone is and what the mood is when people are discussing Pantheon. And when I say people who aren't like you and me, who tune into these every month and watch it every step of the way closely, but again, just the average person who maybe just wants to play every MMO out there and they don't hardly know anything about Pantheon. Maybe at this point they're convinced that Pantheon's been in development too long and it's never going to happen. But with the changes that have taken place this year, will their perception start to change? Will they start to say, maybe this game's actually got a chance? I've already started to see that. I watch people who on YouTube, people who make videos about Pantheon, like Renfail is a good example off the top of my head, who has recently, he used to be very heavily involved in Pantheon way back at the beginning, even before I was, and then he kind of took a break, just kind of wrote it off for a while. And now with the developments this year in Pantheon, it started to kind of catch his eye again. And the conversation has kind of changed a little bit from this game essentially has no chance, not even worth thinking about, to, maybe it actually does have a pretty good chance. Maybe this is something that's worth keeping an eye on. There's definitely some moving and shaking going on, and that's imminence. That's something that's worth noting, that, and when that starts to happen more and more, that's when you start to get that momentum, and that's what they need. So Matthew says, wonder whatever happened to Boogie. He was a pretty big voice as well back in the Kickstarter days. That's a good point. Haven't really heard from him. He definitely was interested in Pantheon. He did some interviews with Brad. Brad was his point of contact, so I don't know if how that stands with the rest of VR. and if they even have any like contact with him, or if they would even be interested. I know I don't follow him closely, but it seems I don't know if his like YouTube career has kind of like gone in a different direction. I don't know if he really follows games or MMOs as much anymore. I don't know if that's part of his regular content. Animate Acumen says, I wonder if Ko is pushing realistic female armor. Maybe, but that's been VR's stance for pretty much forever. They've always gone for the realistic, heroic fantasy armor style for males and females on the models. It's it's one of those things where like that might be part of the reason why Ko is so on board with the vision and the project, is because he agrees with it so much, and it's sometimes people get it kind of the other way around. They're like, Ko's such a fanboy, like blah blah blah, whatever. Ko just goes along. Ko just agrees with whatever the devs do, and he's not hard enough on them, or whatever the case may be, whatever people can come up with. But more often than not, though, it's probably the other way around, where the reason it's not like he's just trying to get on the devs' good side. It's like the reason he is excited is because he already agrees with them. So sometimes it's the other way around. Hey Kelem, glad you made it. We are winding down here. But I'm glad you slid right in. Obviously, I'm looking at an old video from 2018. This was not the video. We were trying to find the other gameplay stream that Ko did during a pre-alpha session. I really got off on a rabbit trail there. I don't even remember, hardly even remember what I was talking about or how I got talking about it. We were trying to find Ko Carnage streaming gameplay, because he's going to be streaming next month in pre-alpha 5. So it's like, if there's like been 4 years since the last time that we have seen in-game live footage of a testing session, like raw testing session, like sometimes the streams that they do with Ko Carnage, it's very it's pretty planned in advance, not scripted to a T, but they have a general plan going into it, and he's got the developers there with them, and those are always very enjoyable to watch. But nothing is as like raw and stripped down as actual testing footage. Like then if you really want to see the actual state of the game and how it is, without any sort of fanfare production, that's where you get it. Nimrel says, I didn't even know Baz was going to stream today. I stream these watch parties the day after every Visionary Realms development update stream. So they do their streams almost always have been on the second Thursday of each month. That's when they do their live Twitch streams on their channel, twitch.tv/Visionary Realms. They provide a development update on whatever they've had going on in the past month. And then the day after, I fire up my stream and react to it. And because I haven't seen any of it since yesterday. And so It's always a good time. It's always a good time just kind of breaking these down. I swear there was another. Let's check this other one. Well, there was August. There was the August 2018, but there's a lot of gameplay streams in 2018. That was a fun year. I'm noticing little things I need to change in the library. But I passed it. August 2018. Where was that? Oh, pre-alpha 3 Dire Lord gameplay. Okay, I think this is what. Okay. I think this is what I was thinking of. So pre-alpha 3 was really the last time that
you guys
we got
want to try to embarrass
in-game.
yourselves
Yes.
real quick.
Come on.
Oh, I'm
full
all up
screen.
to that all the time.
This
You can
is
go
what
ahead
I was
here
thinking about. Do you remember me for those of you who were on my stream last month? Remember me talking about this moment? Can I really not get? Why is not 1080p? This is what I was talking about. This freaking group of gnomes on the ramparts in Black Rose Keep. These are people that are not in Ko's group. We've got Bald Goat, Sarkadin, Vad, Smigs. These gnomes all just hanging out together. Up on the ramparts, and this was during a test session. There were other people logged in that were not in the group, and they're just going about their business. This is an open world. This is the community. Got Insin there, so it's
probably wipe at the
and that adds such a fascinating dynamic. It makes things so much more interesting, unexpected, excited when you get a group in there. And inevitably, there's going to be some people that are probably going to try to be getting their camera time on hanging around Carnage so they can be on stream. But that's kind of part of the fun, where you never know what's going to happen next when you're dealing with other people who might be training through your area or whatever, kill stealing, whatever. That's the reality. I mean, that's the MMO, and that's the sort of thing that you can expect when you're playing Pantheon live post-release, that it just can't really be captured if it's just the only people in the world are this one group, and it's Carnage and the developers. And the developers obviously kind of know what's around the next corner, but when you're with other players, whole different ball game. I don't know.
No.
I wonder where the next stream is going to take place as far as the location in the world. I don't know if they have released exactly what zones are going to be available in pre-alpha. Might see some parts of the world that we haven't seen in a while, or at all. Certainly, they're going to look different.
Oh, I'm all up for that.
There's going to be a lot to look for in that stream, no doubt. And also, what might be interesting, which I don't think Ko has ever done, in this stream, this is during a pre-alpha test session, but I almost just hit I to open up the inventory, but I can't do that because this is a video. They pretty much gave Ko a character already with gear and ready to go, and I think they were level, I don't know, 15 or 20, somewhere around there. This is not a character that he leveled up himself, so it might be interesting to see gameplay from the perspective of a level 1 player. Like, see him actually create a character from scratch, log in, find a group, and level up. I mean, I know, like, combat in Pantheon at level 1 is not the most exciting thing. Let's just be real. Maybe that's not what they want to show to Ko's like 20,000 viewers, but that is Pantheon. That is the reality. You know, it's not a super flashy action combat game. Like it or not, for better or for worse, that's just not the reality of it. But there are things, I think Ko would probably do a pretty good job at explaining why that is, why it's different from action combat games, and the pros and cons of that. Where it's just because, there aren't constantly abilities being shot off, like, that's not a bad thing. That doesn't make it boring. They don't need to speed up combat. Because part of the fun of the progression, actually, of building up your character and getting more abilities is that, unlocking your full arsenal gives you more things to do in combat. And that's very satisfying. It might not be, the most exciting thing right off the bat, but if you stick with it a little bit, it gets very, very satisfying to be able to add more abilities into the mix. So, and that could be something that would be worth showing in the stream. Like, we really have never had a stream that can do that really showcases the early player experience that well, and really puts you into the shoes of somebody who just starts off playing Pantheon. Chumaden says, I wonder how this spot looks now. Probably completely different. They've revamped Black Rose Keep since then, almost entirely. We haven't seen it in a while, though. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure some of these assets have been carried over. I mean, these are custom assets. This isn't like a Unity asset. Or like, like a placeholder asset. I'm guessing some of these have been carried over, but also I would expect a lot of it to be very new. They actually completely moved the location of this zone to be further away from Thronefast. They picked it up and moved it and added more verticality to it to take advantage of the changes to the climbing system and all that sorts of good stuff. I love Black Rose Keep. I love the dungeon style, old medieval castle, that vibe. You get a little bit inside, outside. It's kind of like Unrest in a way. You feel like you're really on a dungeon crawl. You get these like narrow hallways and stuff, and that's fun. When I was at PAX, Joppa and I did a quick run to one of the mini bosses in Black Rose Keep, and it was an absolute blast. So yeah, hopefully we can get some updated footage. Like, they showed Black Rose Keep in a gray box state when it was originally being revamped from like placeholder assets into more of gray box form when they were redoing that whole pipeline, which is good because as fun as Black Rose Keep was and as beautiful as it was the most performant zone, at least on my computer. Actually, I forgot to mention I did one of the streams in 2018. Also, we did the community stream. Might have been during a pre-alpha test session too. You can find it on my YouTube channel. But again, I mean, there were no developers in our group, so we were pretty much just left to our own devices, which is a lot of fun. We got into all sorts of shenanigans. So, that was a blast. I spent quite a bit of time in Black Rose Keep. It's a fun zone, but I do remember back then, I don't know how much of it was my computer. I actually recently upgraded my graphics card, by the way, like very recently, which is exciting. But graphics card I had back then when I streamed it, I don't know if it was a 1060, which wasn't in 2018. It's not that bad. But I remember experiencing some frame rate issues, specifically in Black Rose Keep. So hopefully the revamp will have helped that, because they've been a lot has changed since then. They've really been putting emphasis on performance, like with the vinyl network upgrade and all that. So hey, Minus, I'm glad you made it, man. Glad you enjoyed. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hope you have a good one. Animate Acumen says, I love feeling nowhere near civilization. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what I like about Unrest, is because it's so far from anywhere safe. And I think that's why I'm excited too that Black Rose Keep actually is being moved farther away from Thronefast to be more remote. Because Jop always talked about that like sense of arrival, and even just getting to a zone, even if you don't kill anything in a zone, even just getting to that zone can feel like a sense of accomplishment. And that's something that you can feel good about, which I think is totally true. If you see that landmark way off in the distance, you're like, I want to get there. And it's not easy to get there. So when you do, just feeling like you've unlocked a privilege, even just having the ability to occupy that space and to spend time there, that can be powerful. That's something that is kind of lost in a lot of MMOs these days. And again, it all goes back to building a vast world that's meaningfully and intentionally put together. It takes time. That's the downside of it. It's a very time-consuming process, but it has certainly a lot of payoffs. I felt that way about Unrest, and even just getting to Unrest for the first time was so exciting. It amps up the adrenaline factor too, because depending on how binding and stuff works, but like if you die, it might be a while until you can get back there. You're gonna have a long run back if it took you a long time to get there. But generally, if it's designed well, that's where to kind of make up for that, they compensate with like higher XP rates or better loot. That's where the good loot is. You really gotta dive down deep into the dungeon. It's that high risk, high reward. But that's what makes it so memorable. Like it's a big part of, you ask somebody what's their favorite zone. You ask somebody who played EQ. A lot of the times it's Unrest or any of the other, deep dark dungeons that had to kind of like a sense of mystique to them because of how unattainable they were. Inaccessible. Yeah, like Guck. Perfect example. Or like Nagafin's Lair, or whatever the case may be. I'm drawing a blank on some of the others. Okay, Sora, perfect. Tango Hotel says, Asmin was complaining the other day about having to run to dungeons that are far away. Yeah, I think we can all pretty safely say that Asmin is not necessarily the type of MMO player that Pantheon is trying to attract. Sure, people might not like that, but it's all about the mindset that you bring into it. Like if you really take a moment to pause and just appreciate the fact that you reached a zone that not everybody can reach. Like that's a cool feeling. In regards to travel, though, I want to talk about a thought that I had the other day that I thought was interesting. Because I've heard a lot of people talk about this idea about how, like, you know, MMOs should respect players' time or whatever, which I think is kind of a ridiculous way of saying it. Because like the game doesn't really owe you anything. Like you have if you choose to play an MMO, you are entering that world voluntarily, you know? And for a lot of people, again, not everybody, Pantheon isn't for everybody, but for a lot of people, being in a world that doesn't respect you is the fun. And working through having to kind of carve your own path and overcoming obstacles, that is the fun, even if it's difficult, even if it's time consuming, even if you're somebody who doesn't have lots of time in the day to play an MMO, it can still be fun if you approach it with the right mindset and not just try and be like, oh, I just want to do what everybody else is doing because you've got FOMO. Like it can still be very rewarding. But at the same time, okay, so Pantheon, you know, it's going to have a very large world where it takes time to get to places. But at the same time, I think there's also something to be said for if you are going to expect players to have to travel long distances to get somewhere where they will be rewarded. It's not a bad idea at all to make it as fun as possible to get there. So that players aren't just running through vast swaths of desolate landscapes. Because, you know, maybe that isn't, you know, the best use of player time. Just making them run through, you know, the Karanas where there's not even like mobs in the way that they have to fight. But even aside from encounters that they might see along the way on their journey to their destination zone, I think Pantheon is onto some very wise ways of making the actual traversal of the terrain more fun and engaging and interesting. I'm not just talking about climbing either. You know, it's not super like mainstream knowledge yet, but the things that they have started to allude to, which have been in the plans for a while and are just now starting to kind of come online, are things like gliders and grappling hooks, things like that. You start like, these aren't necessarily just fun toys to have. Like, these are tools that will make the traversal from zone to zone feel less boring and less like a grind, and won't give players the opportunity to just think about, oh, this game doesn't respect my time. Like, if you're shooting grappling hooks up onto a cliff and then jumping off onto your glider and then gliding down into a ravine, like, you're traveling distance, you're getting to your zone, but you're having a lot better time doing it, right? Am I wrong about this? Because I think that's very important. I think that's crucial. And again, I don't know when we're actually going to see those things in action. You know, they're in the plans, but when people kind of start to put that together and realize, like, hey, just getting from point A to point B in this game is fun, I think they're going to take a lot less issue with the whole oh, there's no like teleportation, there's not fast travel, I can't just like click a button and get where I want. It's like there's a lot more that you can do. You make the actual traversal of distance fun, and then you mix in some other unexpected events and encounters along the way, and then before you know it, you're having a blast. Sekot says, "Is this Cove video on YouTube? Where are you watching this from?" Yeah, this is from. I got this from the Library of Pantheon, which just links out to YouTube. Like all of this stuff is on the official Pantheon Rise of the Fallen YouTube channel. There's all sorts of gameplay videos. This one happens to be from 2018, but like if you go to the Pantheon Rise of the Fallen YouTube channel, you just click on videos, and it's like you can go to town. You can spend a lot of time watching all these videos. They go all the way back to the beginning. From pre-alpha. First one in March 2016. You can find them there, or if you want to find them broken down even more, it's what the Library of Pantheon is for, librarypantheon.com. So I found this one right here in 2018.
You guys want to try?
But yeah, we're just having, I'm way off on a rabbit trail. It's not exactly what today's Visionary Realms Twitch stream was about, but I think it's fun to look back every once in a while and see how far they've come. Again, there's so many. If you haven't been following Pantheon's development closely, totally understandable, but you'll be very surprised as to how much content there is out there about the game. That's why we made the library, to put it all in one place, make it much easier to find, because sometimes it gets spread out all around the internet. We've put it all in one place, so you can really get a good idea of what Pantheon's development process has been like. Yeah, Ko has always, this video might be on Ko's channel, but Ko has so many videos of other games on his channel. It's fortunately he has, again, going back to just how much he wants the game to succeed, he's always been very good about basically just giving this content to VR to do whatever they want with it. Like, any gameplay that he does of Pantheon, he passes it along to VR and they upload it to their own channel, which does make it a lot easier to find. Yeah, which I think is very, very nice of them. Even though he recorded it, it's like he still treats it as VR's content. Hey, Thorndeep, thanks for coming, man. See you next month. Hey, I'm glad to hear that, Sekots. Glad you've been enjoying it. I appreciate it. Animate says, I had since 2018, but I've been away the past 6 months. Really? Well, that's still, library is good for that too. Again, like the Great Hall by default is in reverse chronological order, so starting with the most recent. So you can literally just start at the top and just go back 6 months. We're in July, so if you haven't seen anything since February, just scroll down. I mean, this is everything. This is everything that you've missed. You can get caught up on it if you just, however much time you want to spend, just reading and watching through all this. You can get caught up real fast since February. Then alternatively, like if you don't necessarily know the date of what you're looking for, but if maybe you just want to see like all the gameplay videos that they've ever done, you can sort by category. You go to the reference catalog here, and then in here they're broken down by category. And so you want to watch all the gameplay streams, just click on gameplay streams. Boom, there we go. If you want to watch the monthly developer update streams that they do on Twitch, just click, boom, video news. Boom, here we go. So this is July's. That was a particularly good one. That's why we've marked it here with this little curator's choice badge. This is anything you see animate that as you're browsing through. If you want to, maybe you're stretched on time and you just want to hit the highlights, keep an eye out for any of these badges in the past 6 months, because that's something that we have deemed like particularly informative or important. Obviously, as soon as we can, we'll get the recap for August's up there. It just happened last night, so it takes a little time to get all the timestamps up there on the website. But if you want to see all of the stuff that we have marked as important throughout development, you can actually click right on this badge, and it will take you to the curator collection. And this has everything that we have marked. So if you really haven't been paying attention to Pantheon's development for a while, this might be the first place that you want to come look to really just kind of get the highlights here. So we got a newsletter, we got a couple videos and stuff. So these are all important stuff if you really want to get a good idea of what's going on. Did you already react to last night's stream? Yeah, I did. I been live for like 2.5 hours now. We're really just kind of taking wherever the wind takes us on this one. But yeah, I did react to last night's stream. It was a good one. But I'll have the recording for this stream, by the way. I'll have this up on my YouTube channel by tomorrow. So if you missed my comments on the stream, then you can catch the recording tomorrow. But for now, we're just talking about Pantheon in general, talking about the library. Good times, good times. I didn't get bingo though, sadly. You missed it. This is my bingo card. I was one away in 2 different directions. They had just shown a stinking screenshot or said the word bean. Or actually the 3 directions if they had done a Q&A with chat. Oh, thanks, Tumaden, for that clip. Yeah, good point. Even before I get it up on YouTube, you can go back and watch the VOD on Twitch here. I think there was a word that I was thinking I might need to add. I update these bingo cards every month, by the way. So, and you get these from the library in the bingo hall. Bookmark this page if you guys like bingo. You always got to come back here and click this button to get the most updated the most updated version of the bingo card, because this will refresh every month. So you can't just keep clicking to get to try to get a new bingo card. See, I've got bingo card 004. So if I X out of this and I hit DevStream bingo to get another card, it's just going to give me the same one. So, which is good because you can't lose your progress. If you click out accidentally, it will keep that card, and then we'll refresh every month. I sometimes I think of things like, oh, the devs say this often, and then I'll like add it into the mix, and so you always get the most up-to-date cards. Anyway, with that, we'll leave it on the side-by-side here because this is a great shot. With that, it has been almost exactly 2.5 hours. I think I am going to head out. It's getting kind of warm in my studio. And I also need to edit this video a little bit and then get it up on YouTube for tomorrow. And also on Fridays, I have Magic Night with my family coming up in a little bit, so I got to get ready for that as well. Good times all around. As always, I very much appreciate you. I know you have your choice in Pantheon streamers, and I always appreciate that you have chosen to spend your time with me. I don't take it for granted. I always look forward to this every month. I hope to see you back here again next month. We'll do this all over again. The day after Visionary Realms does their Twitch stream next month does promise to be a very good one. And that's September. There's going to be some pre-alpha testing going on. Co-Carnage is going to be streaming, so definitely keep an eye out for that. Till then, join the Discord, chat with me there. Hope to see you all around. Either way, everybody stay curious and adventure on.